Brother, we're so cooked. We're so fucking cooked.
Persona 6. Now I know I'm a little late, but I was thinking a lot about what can happen in Persona 6. You may not know, but I'm a big fan of Persona. I mean, the modern Persona games are in my top 10 games of all time, and when Revival comes out, all three will probably be in my top 5. I played a couple hours of Innocent Sin, and the story is really cool, but there is one problem. The gameplay is boring. No hate towards Persona 1 and 2, but like, come on. I feel like I'm just pressing a button, and after enough presses, I kill the enemy. Maybe I'm just as bad as a game journalist when it comes to gaming and don't understand the true beauty behind the game mechanics of Innocent Sin. But don't worry, I'll eventually play through 1 and 2. I'm not here to talk about these games though. Instead, I'm here to talk about Persona 6 and what I think will happen in Persona 6. The only issue is that I'm basing everything off of a 1-minute trailer that only consists of a graveyard and some spooky sound effects. So the things I want to go over mainly are the Velvet Room, ways of summoning a persona, and the theme of the game. I may get into some other stuff, but this is basically my predictions of these early story developments in Persona 6. So first things first, what is the Persona 6 Velvet Room going to look like? Well, if you watched the trailer, which I'm assuming you have since you found some random cornball talking about Persona 6 on YouTube, you'd notice that it was set in a graveyard, and I just have a sneaking suspicion that the graveyard will be important, you know? Now, just to quickly go over, for modern Persona game Velvet Rooms, Persona 3 was an elevator, Persona 4 was a limousine, and Persona 5 was a prison. And lastly, a game that Persona fans dislike, but I really enjoy, except for the fact that I constantly get shafted, is Persona 5 The Phantom X, which is an aquarium. Now, what do these symbolize? Well, I could very easily be wrong, but I'm pretty sure P3 and 4 symbolize the player's journey, since it's a constantly moving vehicle, until the end of the game when the vehicle stops and the door opens for you. Persona 3 in specific is an elevator going up, which I won't say anymore in case you haven't played the game, but yeah, that's all I need to tell you. Persona 5 The Phantom X, though, is an aquarium and shows you in the sea of some sort. More specifically, the Sea of Souls, where you meet new units that you summon for. And lastly is P5's prison. That is what I mainly wanted to talk about. Now, something I thought about after watching the P6 teaser was to actually go and watch the P5 teaser. And something that you may have noticed is that the Persona 5 teaser directly correlates to the Velvet Room in Persona 5. The chains and balls on the legs of the chairs, also known as a leg iron. If I'm honest, I didn't know that that was called a leg iron until now. Am I stupid for not knowing that? Maybe. But the leg irons are on the legs of the chairs, and leg irons are only ever on the legs of prisoners, which is what Joker was in his Velvet Room. I bring all this up because if the P5 teaser gave us a hint as to what the Velvet Room was in P5, then surely this graveyard is a hint to Persona 6's Velvet Room. Or instead of a hint, maybe it's better to say that this just is what the Velvet Room will be, a graveyard. Like, realistically, this is not an impossible theme for the Velvet Room. The user goes to sleep and wakes up in some blue graveyard. I feel like that's pretty possible. Now, I want to talk about how the cast awakens and summons their personas. To that, I have to go over what I believe the theme of the game may be. If we think about Persona 3 for a minute, you'd recall that the game is all about death, but more importantly, the answer, or episode I guess, whichever you prefer to call it, was about accepting the death of a loved one and moving past it, rather than almost being stuck in time and not being able to get past the fact that they are gone. I think that that's what Persona 6 can be about. The main character loses someone close to them, like a friend for example, and throughout the story you learn more and more about how it's not the main character's fault and how they shouldn't blame themselves for the death of their friend. I understand that P3 Fest did a great job with this topic, but I think it's so interesting that there can be an entire game exploring the topic of realizing that you're not to be blamed for a loved one's death and need to move past it. Now, I don't have much evidence to back this thought up. The only two things I really have are the graveyard and the trailer in this scene specifically. When I first saw this scene with the fingers pointing, I knew it meant something, just didn't really know what. But I think that this could be how the cast will perceive how everyone around them thinks, that it's their fault. Even though in reality, everyone will probably feel sorry for the fact that they lost a loved one, but the party members won't know that. They're always just gonna blame themselves. Now, the last thing I wanted to mention about this theme before moving on to the last section of the video is actually the mascot character. Now, don't ask me what the mascot character will be. We've had a bunch of random stuff, so who knows what. But characters like Morgana and Teddy kind of had some midlife crisis they were going through in their own games about not really knowing much about themselves. And I think that this same crisis could kind of work with the mascot character in Persona 6. Almost everyone experiences death of a loved one. As tough as it may be to accept, it happens. But there are a few people out there who don't have any loved ones. They feel alone, which could be a very scary feeling. And that is exactly what I could see the mascot character going through. Just to realize that they do have loved ones, being the cast members. Sorry, I feel like that got a little deep there, but the final thing I wanted to talk about is finally the awakening and summoning of the persona. Now, this is what made me take so long on this video, because I just couldn't think of anything. I originally had to think of the past game's way of summoning and the meaning behind each of them. Then I tried to correlate that with the Velvet Rooms. Maybe I'm missing something, but I don't think an evoker in an elevator or a limousine and breaking a tarot card really have much to do with each other, but I could be wrong. Then, that's when I had a realization. The theme itself may have to do with both the Velvet Room and summoning of a persona. So, I think that Persona 6 will have you awaken the character's persona like Persona 4, but instead of defeating and accepting your true self, you defeat and accept the death of the person who has died and caused this trauma. Now, while this could be the same case for the main character's awakening, Atlus can also give special privileges and have the main character gain their persona by doing nothing just because they are the protagonist. But, just like the rest of the party, John Persona 6 will eventually have to fight the loved one who has passed. And I think the perfect time to fight said loved one is at the end of the game. They would be the final boss, and during the battle, the protagonist would finally realize that he's not to be blamed, and awakens into his final persona. Or we could just make it a god like the other games. Don't get me wrong, fighting gods as final bosses will always be amazing, but I think my idea is a little cooler. When it comes to just summoning the persona, I knew it had to be cool, but also meaningful to the story. So I thought about the characters smashing the screen. Kind of like how in P4R, U pushes the screen away, the cast of P6 would just smash it. The only meaning I could kind of think of for smashing the screen was like smashing the lie that the characters made up in their heads, so that they can move past it and continue moving forward. And with that, those are all my predictions for now. Maybe I spent a little too long in the kitchen and completely burnt everything, but I do still think that these ideas are pretty cool. If you've made it to the end of the video, thank you, and I'm always interested in hearing other people's predictions of this game that is finally no longer a myth. But, other than that, goodbye.